Hey, have you ever taken a moment to imagine how the Sonic group would react to being in a zombie apocalypse? Or have you ever wanted to watch a series with beloved characters that is definitely not meant for kids? Well, you're in luck because today we're going to be exploring the Sonic Zombie series. You heard me right, no ARG today, just a crazy series that I watched when I was a kid, and I can't seem to forget it. And if the title and the opening doesn't make it obvious, this series is about the Sonic group surviving a zombie apocalypse, but they're not quite what you expect. This series is found on the channel Balena Productions, and I highly recommend watching the series first because the way I'm going to describe each video isn't going to give it justice. It's so funny in the weirdest way possible. Links are always in the description. With that being said, if you're interested, sit back, relax, and let's begin. Unless you're a kid, because you definitely shouldn't be watching this. Now, the order in which I'm going to follow the series is going to be the same as the playlist provided on the channel. Now let's begin. Sonic Zombies Origins. It was the night before Christmas and Sonic was driving in his Hummer towards Rouge's house because that's where everyone will be meeting. To quickly describe Sonic's character, this series' character specifically, he's a douche and he seems kind of like a frat boy and horn dog. You'll understand what I mean later. He brought a box of Pizza Hut coupons as a gift, and inside the house is Rouge, Knuckles, Amy, Tails, Shadow, and Cream. Cream sounds a lot like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Speaking of which, every character in the cast has their own unique but very familiar sounding voice, which is the most enjoyable part of the series in my opinion. In addition to that, we also have a narrator who's also a character in the series. We'll get more into that later. Anyways, as everyone was relaxing inside the house, zombies suddenly appeared and broke into the home. They caught Cream while she was alone, and it was too late for the others to save her by the time they arrived. Her last words were, "Get to the chopper." I'm not gonna even attempt the impression, okay? Tails cries out, "Por qué?" and he has a noticeable Spanish accent. Yes, you heard me right. Anyways, everyone is clearly confused until Shadow explains that zombies must be invading, so when he went outside to check, he was correct. As everyone was boarding up the house, Knuckles stayed back to continue to mourn for Cream. However, this was a terrible idea because all the ruckus just made more zombies arrive, and because Knuckles was alone, he was obviously bitten by Cream, who succumbed to the infection and turned into a zombie. Shadow shot Cream down and even beat her with a crowbar just to make sure she was dead. They couldn't stay in the house any longer, so Tails suggested to go to the airport, which Amy commented that he doesn't have a passport. Damn. Anyways, as they began packing, Shadow fended off the zombies the best he could. Meanwhile, Knuckles seems to be hallucinating because Shrek suddenly appeared, but later we'll learn that this isn't a hallucination. Anyways, they eventually left the house in the Hummer, and because Sonic turned on the stove, the house blew up with all the zombies inside. Sonic also took this moment to break the fourth wall and talk about safety. It's probably a good thing too, because the narrator complained that his mother never lets him do that. In this series, I wouldn't say Sonic is a great role model, but he has some moments. Very few. Anyways, eventually they arrived at the airport, and it's clearly in ruin. Shadow took the leader role because he's the only one with a gun, and they all began to follow him until Tails needed a break due to him being hungry. And this is when we get the infamous taco obsession with Tails. He really loves tacos. Same, but I mean, he's really obsessed. He turned demonic when someone mentioned his tacos. Anyways, back to Knuckles' infection, it seemed to have gotten to him because he vomited, then died. And when he started to twitch is when he turned into a zombie. However, he isn't an ordinary zombie. According to the narrator, he's an alien super zombie. The group ran away as Shadow fired his gun at Knuckles, but sadly it didn't work. Eventually the group was cornered, but luckily Shadow recovered from getting smacked and pushed a statue to fall on top of the zombie Knuckles. However, this didn't completely take Knuckles out of the picture. While everyone was ready to board a helicopter outside, Knuckles reappeared again and evolved some more. Shadow's bullets didn't work, so Wreck-It Ralph appeared to save the day, however he was eaten short after. Now they have to go with plan B or C, which is to bomb the creature, but they need to distract it first, and that distraction was Sonic. He went supersonic mode and it worked. The others boarded the helicopter and took off as Sonic threw the bomb into the creature's mouth. Sonic sacrificed himself so everyone could survive. How sad. Anyways, eventually the group found a clearing and some shelter, which was lucky for them because their helicopter broke down by the time they landed. Oh, and Sonic isn't actually dead. He appeared behind everyone and everyone rejoiced. They soon went to set up their base and Tails questioned how the infection happened. Turns out Big the Cat was grilling some burgers and scratched his butt. Because he didn't clean his hands afterwards and touch the patties, it infected the person eating those burgers, and the infection spread from there. And at the end of the video, it was interrupted by the narrator's father telling him to go to bed because it was a school night. The narrator wanted to stay up longer, however, and as punishment, he was beaten. Yikes. Again, this series is crazy. Now the next video in the playlist. Sonic Zombies Apocalypse 3. Why 3? Because. If it wasn't obvious, this video was a lot older than the other one. Anyways, it opened in the shelter from the previous video, the group is inside, and of course the piece was interrupted when zombies appeared. Shadow started shooting the zombies, but since the door was left open, zombies of course went inside. As the others were getting consumed, Sonic ran away and entered another building. Shadow was also inside, but he was a zombie. Sonic was then eaten. Is this the end? No. Now moving on to the next video. Sonic Thing 2. Turns out Rouge managed to save everyone and they're in a different shelter. Once Sonic woke up, they started to make a plan to leave for safety. While outside, Shadow killed a horde of zombies, but suddenly a mutated zombie appeared. Shadow was having a hard time with this zombie and Sonic tried protecting Shadow but ended up getting injured until Eggman suddenly appeared and killed it for them. According to Eggman, he's on their side and tells them about a helicopter and his strategy to kill all the zombies at once. And that strategy is to kill the monster that started everything. So technically the infection started with a butt scratch, but in this situation it also has some weird monster stuff going on. Speaking of which, the monster soon appeared out of a portal and it's Godzilla, the Lord of Zombies. Sonic used the power pizza storm, which made pizza fall from the sky, and it successfully killed Godzilla, and it seemed like all the zombies started to perish. Afterwards, they went to the helicopter but were betrayed by Eggman. You never trust the villain. Shadow got blasted off the roof and Eggman goes on to explain that he's going to take the helicopter to go back to Russia and he's planning to throw everyone off the building too. However, unexpectedly, the mutated tank monster from before appeared and disrupted that plan. During this moment, Sonic and his friends took the helicopter and left Eggman behind as he was thrown off the building. And this was the end of the video, but not the story. There's more. Sonic Zombies Diaries Part 3 out of 12. Look, these titles are intentionally weird. Anyways, the narrator goes on to explain everything happening as usual, and it turns out the helicopter ended up breaking and the group crashed down into a forest. Left with no other choices, the group set up camp. Sonic wandered off as the others started a fire, and while resting, Rouge revealed that she misses Shadow. Remember, Shadow was thrown off the building, so he's assumed dead. Rouge then stepped away from the camp to process everything and ran into Sonic. And because Sonic reminded Rouge of Shadow, she did the devil's tango with him. After that exciting night, the group woke up and Tails was freaking out because all of his tacos were missing. That's when Silver appeared and offered them shelter at his cabin. However, Silver isn't doing this to be generous. He has a plan. And that isn't the only conflict. Rouge is pregnant. Yes, it's only been one night, but just go with it. Now, returning back to Silver's plan, it turns out he is the one who stole Tails' tacos, and he's going to use them to summon a demon and bring back all the zombies. Why? Because Silver wants to be respected and rule the world. Anyways, he completed the ritual and the sky turned red and zombies started to appear and approach the cabin. The group wanted to run, however Rouge was in the middle of giving birth. Again, don't question how fast this is moving. And during this moment, Amy discovered that Sonic did the dirty with Rouge and was pissed. Anyways, Rouge gave birth and it was little Sonic from Sonic Generations. The narrator also admits that he's 5, but later his age changes. Anyways, this beautiful moment of birth was interrupted because there's still zombies coming. So the father and son started killing the zombies outside, but Silver killed little Sonic during the chaos. The group was losing hope, but suddenly Shadow appeared. He's alive! Shadow knocked Silver to the ground, but Silver looked towards the sky and called out to something that soon appeared out of a portal. It's Satan. Silver pleaded his loyalty, but Satan wasn't impressed and sent him flying. Satan also sent Shadow flying and defeated Mario and Spider-Man, who made a cameo. Why were they there? Because the narrator said he was 12 and he felt like adding them. Satan then goes on to explain that he's going to use the power from Tails' tacos, which was a horrible confession for him to make because this angered Tails. Tails turned demonic crazy and started attacking Satan, which worked, and the devil was defeated. Shadow is back, and conveniently, there's an airplane nearby for them to use. They took the airplane and happily sung a song as they flew into the sunset. Now the next video. Sonic Zombies Vengeance. The group are in the boat in the middle of the ocean hoping to find land, and eventually they do. A small snowy island with a warehouse. The group set up camp inside while looking out for zombies, and during this, they split up to do their own tasks, and Amy offered to snuggle up with Sonic, but he'd rather jump out a window. And he does. I'm also gonna say this right now, Amy is like obsessed, and like way more obsessed with Sonic than you think. Anyways, they all got ready for bed, and when Tails was saying goodnight to his tacos, Amy tried taking one, but obviously he didn't allow that. By the way, of course the group isn't alone while in the warehouse. Stalking them in the shadows is a very familiar villain, Eggman. Zombies too, but you know, that wasn't obvious. Luckily, Shadow is good with a gun, so when zombies started appearing, he started blasting so everyone could go outside. But while running, Sonic separated from the group, and because he was alone, he got tranquilized. And when Sonic eventually woke up, he discovered that Eggman was the one who captured him. Oh, and the narrator seems to enjoy throwing fat insults at Eggman whenever he appears. Anyways, Eggman goes on to explain that he survived getting thrown off the building and he returned for vengeance. Hey, like the title. He plans to take the essence of a zombie and put it into Sonic so he can turn him into a zombie. Which he went through with the plan, but the machine started to overpower, and rather than turning Sonic into a zombie as he hoped, Sonic changed into a horn hog. You heard me right. A horn hog. Sonic is now feeling frisky and breaks out of the cage and attacks Eggman. Scary. Anyways, back to the others, they got out of the warehouse and are obviously confused about where Sonic went. So they all started looking for him, and that's when they discovered Eggman's corpse. Shadow immediately identified that Eggman was done to death by a horn hog. How does he know this? He just does, and now Amy is interested because, you know, it's still Sonic, and she's obsessed with him. Speaking of which, Sonic Hornhog soon entered the room and Shadow plans to hold him off as the others ran. Amy didn't want to go, but Rouge pulled her away, so they ran and hid. Sonic managed to evade Shadow, or maybe the other way around, and there was a close call, but the group didn't get caught. With this moment to catch their breath, Rouge asked Tails to look for Shadow, and he did with his lawnmower. Luckily, Shadow is still alive, and the reason why he didn't die is because he had something in him to protect him. He had a plug, okay? It's so hard to be family friendly with this video. Anyways, the group met back up and Shadow isn't sure how to save or kill Sonic unless they had a vampire on their side. Speaking of which, Knuckles appeared! Because he was so popular, they brought him back along with Shrek. Anyways, Knuckles apparently is a vampire and they went to his cabin so he can go on to explain that the nuclear explosion from before is what turned him into a vampire. This is convenient because they can now use him to kill Sonic Hornhog, but they need to weaken him first. And the way to weaken him first is by offering him someone to do the dirty with. So Amy and Rouge went out and at first it seemed like Rouge was going to fight Sonic, but that soon cut away to the three of them inside of a cabin, snuggling up on a bed. They look peaceful. The reason why the ladies are still alive is because Rouge is loose and Amy is crazy, so yeah. Cool. Anyways, the boys finally arrived, and the reason why they're late is because of Tails and the border control, but that doesn't matter right now. Now, Knuckles used this opportunity to fight Sonic, and it seemed like he was about to kill Sonic, but was soon overpowered. Now, Knuckles is going to be the one to get killed, but suddenly Silver, appeared and froze the two. Silver then robbed the vampire and Hornhog/werewolf powers from the two, which cured them from being monsters, and that's great, but now Silver has that power and is going to transform. Silver turned into this ugly giant, and as always, Shadow was the one to hold off the threat as the group ran away. Sadly, Shadow ended up running out of bullets and was swallowed by Silver. Anyways, during the chaos, the group discovered a helicopter because they tend to be super lucky with this stuff, and while Tails was fixing it, they needed to distract Silver. So Sonic and Knuckles climbed up a high up area so Silver would follow them. Once at the top, Sonic threw a pizza into Silver's mouth and the pizza was bomb. Literally. It exploded in Silver's mouth and he lost his grip and fell. And while falling, his body landed on a spike which pierced through his chest. The threat is now defeated. So with that out of the way, the group entered the fixed helicopter and left the island. But during the ending scene, the narrator got a little too loud during this part because his mother yelled at him and sent his father to beat him. But that's not all. The police were also called and shots were fired, hitting the narrator's father. That was crazy. We also learned that the narrator's name is Billy and that he was adopted. Yikes. Let's move on. Sonic Zombies in space. Is it really a good franchise if they haven't been sent to space at least once? You know, Jason in space, Leprechaun. Anyways, the video begins with the narrator explaining that everything just got worse since the previous video. Many places are destroyed and there's barely any survivors in the world. We then see Sonic and Tails going on a supply run but sadly returned empty-handed. Everyone is now living in the sewers and starving. But that isn't their only problem because of course, zombies arrive as always. While Knuckles stayed back to fight the zombies, the remaining group ran away. Afterwards, the group eventually reunited and wished that they still had Shadow around because he would know what to do, but sadly he's dead. Sonic then goes on to explain that he's just as valuable to the team as Shadow and that Shadow was a clone anyways. This is when Rouge realized that there's probably more clones of Shadow in space. This is great, however the problem is how can they get into space? This is when Rouge broke the fourth wall and asked Billy, the narrator, to spawn in a spaceship. Since this is Gmod, the narrator can spawn whatever he wants, so he did. Now the group of friends entered the spaceship and went into space. Eventually, they found a space station which seemed like it was abandoned, however they discovered Blaze was the occupant of the space station and they've been there for years waiting for the group to arrive. In addition to that, Tails fell in love with Blaze at first sight. After that quick greeting, the group went to have dinner and Blaze explained that everyone there was a part of a project. However, the group didn't care about that and are still looking for Shadow. He's the main reason why they went into space in the first place. So Blaze took the group to a room full of clones of all of them. The narrator even giggles, stating that he can now bring back any of them whenever he feels like it. The group then approached the tank with Shadow in it, and Blaze helped to free him. And it seemed about right because Shadow had the memories of fighting the silver monster. How does he have these memories? Blaze goes on to explain that once one of them dies, their clone will inherit their memories. This is why Shadow remembers all of the past events. Satisfied with having their friend back, the group soon went to their sleeping quarters to rest. Rouge denies Sonic's offer to sleep with him due to his small size, while Amy happily volunteered but got rejected. Tails then asked Blaze if it was alright for them to stay in the space station and they'll get an answer tomorrow. This is great, right? They no longer have to deal with zombies and they have a roof over their head along with food. Sadly, in the middle of the night, Amy had the realization that if she wants to do Sonic, she can do it with his clone. So she went to the clone room and released one of the Sonics. And because the other Sonic is still alive, this one didn't have any proper memories. So she tricked the clone Sonic into believing that she was his girlfriend and they went to a room to do it. However, at the moment, Amy didn't realize that when she released one of the Sonics, she ended up releasing some of the other clones as well, such as the Big Bad Eggman and Silver. there. We then follow one of the clones that belonged to Shadow, and this clone stumbled across the sleeping Rouge. The clone pounced on Rouge and everyone woke up during the ruckus. Now they have to deal with evil clones! Luckily, Shadow always has a gun on him and shoots his evil clone, but as soon as they all stepped out into the hallway, more clones were waiting for them. Eggman is ready to throw hands with the group, and Tails offered to find Blaze as the others dealt with the clones. And the battle was epic. Sonic and Eggman had lightsabers and everything. So while those two were fighting, Shadow resorted to sticking with his guns, Knuckles using his fists, and the encouraging words from Shrek, and Rouge also doing hand-to-hand combat. Now cutting away from that exciting scene, we see Amy and the clone of Sonic she freed. She was noticeably disappointed. Not only was he small, but barely lasted long. Yikes, 13 seconds. She's in shock because she was waiting her whole life for this moment just for it to be a letdown. She considered ending her life, however, she realized that if she truly wants to be satisfied, she needs to get with the real Sonic, not with a clone. So she killed the clone and now has a desire to get with the real Sonic. Amy, girl. Anyways, we cut to Tails, who's looking for Blaze and discovered that Blaze was surrounded by clones of himself. Tails refuses to share Senora Gato and uses the power Taco Tornado to defeat the clones of himself. He also summoned a lawnmower attack, and during the chaos, he said a lot of random Spanish words or things connected to Mexicans. I feel like I should be offended, but I'm honestly laughing. You go, Tails. You go. And in the end, Tails wins the battle, and as a reward, he got a kiss from Blaze, which made him ascend. I love this stupid series. With that, we return to the others who are still fighting, and Eggman was cornered by Sonic. Eggman tried asking the clones for help, but they don't know how to fight, and as for the Horn Hogs, they're kind of in the middle of something. Eventually, Eggman got the upper hand, and because the narrator already helped the Sonic crew, Eggman thought it would only be fair if the narrator helped him too. So the narrator did and removed Sonic's lightsaber. Hope was almost lost until the silver monster appeared and ate Eggman. But later we'll find out he's not dead. Anyways, before the monster could eat Sonic too, Sonic took the lightsaber that Eggman dropped and threw it into Silver's eye, which made him drop into space. After this, everyone reunited and successfully defeated all the clones. Amy also confesses that she released the clones because she wanted to do Sonic, meaning she's the one to blame for this. Obviously, this angered Blaze, and because they caused so many problems, Blaze ordered everyone to leave, including Tails. The group hopped into their spaceship, and Blaze watched them leave from a window, cursing at them and questioning why she trusted them. And while leaving, Shadow realized that he left something in his bed, and it turns out he left behind a bomb. Because of that single action, the space station exploded. Yikes. Now back on Earth, the group landed on a beautiful beach, and as usual, they broke their transportation. But that's alright, because they're going to make the most of the situation. As for the exploded space station, it fell down to Earth, and it's revealed that Eggman is still alive along with some clones, meaning the series is obviously not done yet. And in the end of the video, Billy, the narrator, was interrupted by Tommy, probably his brother, who found their grandfather's hidden stash. And while watching the grandfather's interesting tape, their grandmother caught them and punished them with a whip. Ouch. Next video. Sonic Zombies, Doom Ship, the movie. Rather than being in the beautiful beach from the previous episode, they're now in the ocean driving a sea hummer. The reason why they're not in that beach is because Tails messed with the natives. Anyways, during the trip, they ran out of gas, but luckily, while resting, an IKEA ship just so happened to appear and rescued them. The ship's crew is Vector, Espio, and Charmy B. And during the introductions, Espio seemed to have caught the attention of Knuckles. Specifically, his horn is what Knuckles was concentrating on. The group soon had dinner made up of meatballs and told each other their stories. And afterwards, the group was allowed to stay on the ship. Hopefully, they don't ruin this opportunity like last time. Sadly, they didn't realize that they were being followed by Eggman and Cream, who's now acting as his new assistant. They're also floating on a raft of clones. Back on the ship, everyone found a place to sleep while Knuckles was outside pondering these new emotions that he's feeling for Espio and his horn. He even broke out into song. I'm not joking, he's singing about wanting to sit on Espio's horn and falling in love. Unexpectedly, Espio appeared and confessed that he feels the same way for Knuckles as well. With their love confession, the two ran off to get some privacy, and we returned to the others. Because of the meatball dinner earlier, everyone is having the runs, and there's only one bathroom, which is already occupied by Amy. Also, at some point, Charmy B was about to take one of Tails' tacos, but ended up facing his wrath and diarrhea. Ignoring that for now, we see Eggman and Cream climbing onto the ship. Also, Cream seems to consider Eggman to be their father, and the two abandoned the clones that soon sunk into the water. With the two now on board, they took over the ship by attacking Victor, and they lowered the anchor, but that was a mistake because the dead clones attracted zombies that soon used the anchor to climb up the ship. Charmy B was the first victim of the zombies, and the group was obviously confused about where the zombies are coming from. Eventually, the group ran into Eggman, and Cream learned that he was spit out from the monster who ate him, which explains how he survived the last encounter, and now Eggman wants revenge. For his revenge, he made a gun that will turn the group into zombies, but after realizing that the ship was already overrun by zombies, he switched sides for survival. Now this unusual group ran off, found Knuckles, explained to him the situation, and rescued Victor from the zombies. As for Espio, he's missing, so Knuckles ran off to find him as the others went towards the sea hummer. Cream managed to defeat a lot of zombies, which was impressive. However, the next problem for the group was a sea monster monster in the water. There's always gotta be a giant monster in these videos. Shadow starts fighting the monster, Sonic and Victor got to work on releasing the Sea Hummer, and Rouge was aroused by the tentacles. Rouge then left for strange reasons. Returning back to the chaos, the monster took the Sea Hummer and started destroying the ship. As for Knuckles, he discovered that Espio was bitten by a zombie. Returning back to the group, Tails told off Sonic for his horrible behavior, and surprisingly this motivated Sonic to help, but this ended up with the two getting consumed. This was a good thing, however, because Sonic had meatballs in hand. You know, the ones that gave everyone diarrhea? So he fed them to the monster, who soon had explosive diarrhea and shat everywhere. Sonic and Tails were also pooped out, and that was enough to defeat the monster. Sadly, the ship is sinking, so they only have 3 minutes until the ship is submerged in the water. Luckily, Tails told everyone that Rouge is the solution to this problem, so the group needed to find her. Where did she run off to during this chaos? Experimenting with a tentacle! And surprisingly, it was quick and disappointing. Anyways, Sonic took Rouge back to the group, Tails made Rouge bend down, and he pulled out a boat from her butt. Turns out this boat was the same one he used to enter the country. Wow. And how did it fit in there? Don't ask. The group soon hopped onto the boat except for Victor because he wants to sink with his ship, so the group left him behind. As for Espio and Knuckles, they eventually found Victor and tried to convince him to leave with them, but he refused, so the two ran to hopefully catch up with the others. Sadly, the others were already gone and the ship sank, and to make things more worse, Espio died, leaving Knuckles floating on a door with Shrek by his side. Hope seemed almost lost for Knuckles, but luckily a dolphin appeared and took him to the others. Everyone is reunited, which is great until the monster reappeared. Luckily, or unlucky for the narrator, everything crashed and the video ended with the narrator yelling out in frustration. Rest in peace, IKEA ship and its crew. Now moving on. Sonic Zombies Shopping Mall. It begins in the forest and everyone is relaxing around a campfire while Shadow is hunting for food. Little did the group know, something was stalking them in the shadows. It was a bear. The group ran away, but this was perfect for them because they stumbled across a shopping mall. It was blocked by zombies, but with the power of editing, they transported themselves into the mall, and Shadow asked Billy, the narrator, to block the door for them. Being the kind narrator that he is, he did. Now the mall is their new home. Sonic was drawn towards the Starbucks, Cream went to the toy store, Eggman to the donut shop, Tails to Taco Bell, Shadow went to Dick's Sporting Goods, while Amy and Rouge went to the movie theater. Everything was perfect and they loved it there, but of course, there's always conflict following the crew. French Metal Sonic and his biker gang. They crashed into the mall and planned to take it over while killing anyone who's still inside. The Sonic crew considered leaving the mall, but it was too good for them to give up, so they just planned to fight back. So as everyone was doing their part, Shadow went to fend off the zombies in the meantime. Tails was stalking Mega Man, who eventually went into the Taco Bell, and you guessed it, Tails attacked him. Meanwhile, Amy and Rouge went after the dolphin, who attempted to seduce them, and as for Pikachu, Knuckles got motivation from the ghost of Espio and his friends to fight Pikachu in a rap battle, which Knuckles won. As for Cream and Eggman, they went head to head against Bowser. Bowser tried running off from the two, but Cream was holding onto that bike for dear life and caused an explosion. Lastly, Sonic, who stumbled across Metal Sonic, who was in the bathroom. How is the machine taking a leak? Anyways, Metal Sonic seemed to have recognized Sonic and the crew, but brushed that thought away to start a fight. And with unwashed hands too, ew. As for the others, they were happy with their success, but sadly zombies started pouring into the building because Shadow couldn't handle them alone. There was too many of them. And the next moments go pretty quickly. Bowser was bitten by one of these zombies. Sonic and Metal Sonic soon entered the picture, still fighting. Shadow shot Metal Sonic, and Bowser transformed into a grotesque monster out for blood. As for escaping the building, it seemed impossible because the entrance was blocked, but luckily they saw an air balloon on the roof. Sonic was tasked to find how to get onto the air balloon, but for some reason went to the restroom. While in the restroom, Sonic found Eggman, who ran away earlier. Eggman is scared, so Sonic started to comfort him in his own way. It worked and motivated Eggman to not be such a scaredy cat. Back to the group, Shadow is fighting against the Bowser monster, who eventually ate the biker gang, and during this conflict, it's revealed that Metal Sonic was actually Silver. Ignoring that for now, the group then grabs the rope that they used to tie up the gang earlier to help them climb to the air balloon. It's a good thing that Tails can fly too. Anyways, Shadow shoots the Bowser monster with his rocket, and the group attempted to climb up the rope, but Silver, who's still wearing the metal suit, grabbed onto Sonic. Silver then goes on to explain that he had to remake his own body just to stay alive, and he wants revenge. However, Shadow thinks this video is going on way too long, so he just shoots Silver with his gun. Hey, if a gun works, it works. The group then started climbing the rope, but sadly Eggman fell and broke his back. He's eternally bleeding, so he knows he can't continue. Sonic and Eggman had a brief heart-to-heart, and Sonic cried for him, but quickly got over it and returned to the others. Unexpectedly, there was an earthquake, but it turns out it was just the Bowser monster who's still alive. The monster started to transform and turn into a giant worm, but luckily the group managed to fly away just in time and were peacefully floating in the sky. During this, Sonic broke the news to Cream that Eggman is dead, and Amy wanted to get dirty with Sonic in the air balloon, but was pushed off of the air balloon. And as a last-minute twist, it turns out Silver was holding onto the rope still attached to the air balloon. Luckily, a bird knocked him out, so we don't have to worry about him, right? Sonic Zombies, the finale. First, it begins in Five Nights at Freddy's. Wait, never mind. Back at the air balloon, Amy is hanging on the rope in order to keep her from touching Sonic, and the trip is taking so long that Tails managed to have a baby named Pablo with Cream. Alright. Suddenly, there was harsh winds and the air balloon crashed to the ground. Sonic tried to play it off that he fell on top of Rouge and unexpectedly asked to consummate their marriage, but he was soon thrown against the wall. Rouge is obviously not interested. Anyways, everyone is okay, except for Pablo. As Cream was mourning for their child, the others looked at their surroundings and discovered that they were at a theme park. This immediately cheered Cream up and they all ran inside. Little did they know that there were people hiding in the shadows. And as they went further inside, they suddenly were surrounded by zombies, but luckily the people that were hidden came out and saved them. They're called the Recolors. They're called that because noticeably they are the recolored versions of the group. The Recolors then took the group to meet their leader, and while walking, Sonic noticed something. The secret pipe of doom which leads to the sewers and the home of a bunch of monsters. The Recolors recommended them not to open it. Obviously, this is foreshadowing. Eventually, they arrived at the Tunnel of Love entrance, which is where the leader is located, but before going inside, they had to disarm the group first. Shadow didn't like the thought of abandoning his gun, but for the betterment of the team, he dropped it. So the group went inside and met the leader. At first, the man denied letting the group stay in the park, but once he saw Rouge, he changed his tune. Now they can stay, and they had a tour of the park. Cutting away from that for a moment, we see Silver wandering in the sewers, which you can probably guess what happens later. Anyways, as I mentioned, the group is having a tour, and Rouge is getting a personal tour from the leader. And during this tour, the leader wanted Rouge to become his love and partner to rule the park, but Rouge declined because she didn't like the way he was treating her, and stormed off. This angered the leader, so he decided that the only way he can have her is by removing the competition. Meanwhile, the group is interacting with the Recolors and discover that the Recolors are somehow stronger and, quote-unquote, cooler than them. It's like OCs. People always make their OCs better than the originals for some reason. However, despite what the Recolors say, they're just losers and weird. With that being said, the group realized that they probably shouldn't stick around and that they should leave. Returning back to Silver, he found the ladder attached to the secret pipe of doom and broke the barricades to return to the surface. This was obviously a horrible mistake because of the monsters that we learned previously, which started pouring out. Now jumping back to the group, they all agreed to leave, but the leader soon appeared and pointed a gun at Sonic. The leader assumed Rouge was in love with Sonic and tried to use that as leverage, but in reality, she was in love with Shadow. Shadow was surprised by this, but being the group protector that he is, he ignored that to save Sonic from the leader. He even got his gun back, and then he goes on to explain that he appreciates Rouge and their friendship, but he only loves his guns and his cats. With that out of the way, the group soon ran off. But that wasn't the end of the conflict because the leader got back up and made an announcement telling his minions to kill the group. However, our group of characters are smarter and used the rides against the Recolors. Knuckles used the slide, Cream used the train, Tails used his demonic side and ate some souls, Shadow used his guns, Rouge used her hand-to-hand combat skills, and Sonic was chilling in the background. Cool. And at some point, Knuckles was getting choked out, but Shrek saved him because Shrek sees Knuckles as a donkey. Genuinely, I thought Shrek was a figment of Knuckles' imagination, but in reality, that's kind of not the case. It's a weird situation. Anyways, where was Amy during all of this? Getting dirty with the recolored Sonics, but they're all disappointing, so she's done with hedgehogs. The group then ran towards the exit, but it was blocked by guards and the leader. It was a horrible situation for the group, but luckily the monsters appeared just in time and attacked the guards. Using this opportunity to their advantage, the group ran towards the Tunnel of Love, but stumbled across Silver inside. Silver still wanted revenge until Sonic revealed that the group actually do like him, so attacking them would be unnecessary. So Silver switched sides to join them. Easy as that. Too bad that he was eaten by a monster before he could fully redeem himself. Anyways, the group ran out of the tunnel and towards the roller coaster to escape the worm monster. The worm ate Shadow's shotgun, and the group split up into two different groups to climb up the coaster. Sadly, Amy, Cream, and Tails were captured by the creepy leader, and when the leader found the others, he used the pipe to attack them. He still wants Rouge and revenge for the chaos that they brought to his park, but she continued to reject him. The leader wasn't happy with that response, so he plunged the pipe into her chest. And because she doesn't have plot armor, she's dying. So with Sonic by her side, she made a dying request asking Sonic to do Amy. With that being her final words, she soon passed. The narrator even tears up during this. Sonic is then fueled with rage and started fighting the leader. He even used his abilities from his games, and he managed to beat up the leader quite a bit, but Sonic quickly lost the upper hand, and the worm at the bottom of the coaster was waiting to eat him. Luckily, Knuckles came to the rescue and pushed the leader to get eaten instead. Anyways, the group soon reunited, but again, Rouge is still dead, so this wasn't a happy victory. Speaking of dead, it turns out the leader isn't dead, and managed to cut himself out of the monster who ate him earlier, but suddenly a DeLorean appeared with Eggman inside, and now the leader is dead because he got ran over. As to how Eggman is alive, don't question it. The man is like a cockroach. Anyways, Eggman is here to take Sonic back into the past so they can prevent the zombie apocalypse from happening. Now with the mission, Sonic said his goodbyes to his friends and left to go back into the past. Once they arrived, Eggman explained to Sonic that Biggs the cat is responsible for the infection and that they need to kill him, but Sonic refused because he felt like it wasn't right. However, unexpectedly, a Hummer appeared, running over the two arguing with each other and also hit Biggs the cat. Who was in the Hummer? Sonic from the past. Or present. So yeah, it kinda sucks that our Sonic is dead, but hey, at least the zombie apocalypse was prevented. And now we're back to the events of the beginning of the series. The Christmas party. Everyone is having a fun time, and as Cream was getting champagne, unexpectedly Vector, Charmy B, and SPO appeared. But it's for work reasons. In this timeline, the group doesn't know each other yet. They're dropping off an IKEA bed, and feeling the Christmas spirit, Rouge invited the three to join the Christmas party. Because of this, SPO and Knuckles met and obviously developed feelings for each other. How nice. As for Shadow, he left the party early to see his cats. Amy still wanted to get laid, and unexpectedly Silver appeared and said he was huge, so she hopped on that, literally. And Sonic was about to get into Rouge's pants, but unexpectedly she turned into a demonic monster. What? Now here's the kicker, folks. This was all a dream. Sonic, not the douchebag that we know, woke up and told Tails, not the one that we know, about his strange dream, and to get that off of his mind, they both went to get tacos. And this was the end of the Sonic Zombie series. A crazy dream. Well, actually, there's another video after this, but if you want to check it out, you could go to the channel yourself. So, an interesting ride, huh? A beloved childhood video game with a cast of amazing characters that were used for this series with humor that might make you either mad or bust out in laughter. Personally, I'm laughing, and I know I really shouldn't have watched this as a kid, but hey, I turned out okay. Oh, who am I kidding? Again, the links to the channel and the videos are in the description. Watching the series is way more enjoyable compared to having some random person summarize everything, so really, check it out! Honestly, hearing the voice acting makes it all worth it. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like, subscribe, do that funny little notification thing. I also have a Twitter if you want to check that out. And have a good day. I better not catch you dying on me. Goodbye! Woo!